Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Welcome, everyone. This is Mary Scott. You are in the Personal Development Hub, and this is our Tuesday Talks Power Up. And today, I'm very excited for our guest today. She is bringing so much wisdom. She's a published author. My goodness, is she a published author? She's a blogger. And there's something I read, I wanted to make sure I get this correct. She is a collector of rare and splendid moments. My goodness, I love that. Kathy Joy, welcome to you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fabulous. Thank you for having me. I'm so thrilled to be on the hub in this group of fantastic human beings.
That is lovely. And if you're watching live and you're on and in our Facebook Personal Development Hub, just be aware there's a little bit of delay between Kathy and I today, just the internet playing with us a little bit. But do put your comments in, show some support here for Kathy. And if you are on live, thank you so much. Now let's go back to the woman who's our superstar today. Kathy, where will we start? I want to know something that other people may not know, so I'm going to ask you this straight up. How many books have you actually published now?
6.
6 books. And are they adult books or are they children's books?
They're a little bit of each. As a matter of fact, my coffee table books have often been perused by children. They enjoy the images. They might not necessarily understand the little trios of celebrations that are printed on each page, but they certainly enjoy the photographs. I do have, following my 4 seasonal books, I have a sequence of 2 children's books. Will you hold my story and will you share your story? Those are specifically for early readers.
That is absolutely fantastic. The reason I started there is that I imagine there's something here that stirred anew about personal development some time ago. Is that true?
Oh, yes. I would identify my launch of my personal development journey, the time of conception. I believe in pro-life. I believe I was fearfully and wonderfully made. I was knitted in my mother's womb by my maker, who knew my name and prepared a way for me to occupy a space in this world with the gifts that he attributed to me. So I very much believe my personal journey began way back and continued after birth. And I have been on a wonderful path, and it has been sort of like a roadmap. Do you remember the old road maps that we used to open up and they would unfold, and you could never quite fold them up the same way again after that? And they just took you in all these different directions. And I remember being a child on a road trip in the station wagon with wood on the side and my father driving. And he would say, "You kids in the back, take a crayon or a marker and let's chart our course." And we would draw it. And of course, we would go on many side trips, and it's before GPS, so we got lost a lot. I would describe my life that way, getting off the path, but always getting back on and learning from the little side trips that I've been taking. along the way, I found some wonderful mentors. And so I couldn't give you an exact watermark as to when I began an official personal journey, but I become more aware of who's speaking into my life and giving me wisdom. And I take a lot of substance from that.
Oh my goodness. There's so much there. I was thinking, where will I go with this? Because I love the analogy of the roadmap, veering off, coming back, veering off, coming back. Let me ask you then, where have been your greatest learnings, being on the map or being off the map?
Definitely off the map. There's a wonderful children's author named Roald Dahl, D-A-H-L, and he wrote the book, The Phantom. Are you familiar with The Phantom Tollbooth?
I've heard of it. I haven't, but I know the author. Yes.
I do hope that I'm naming the right author with the right book, and I hope somebody will correct me if I'm incorrect. However, the book is what I want to cite. In the book, The Phantom Tollbooth, the little boy Milo is on a journey, and he goes to the Isle of Conclusions. He actually jumps to the Isle of Conclusions, jumping to conclusions. And he learns so much when he goes to that little island, and he went off the path, but he had a life lesson that he could take with him when he got back on the highway. It's wonderful. I love that. I love plays on words. And that book is a continual feast of plays on words. There's also in that book a car that goes without saying.
I love this, what you're saying. I just want to start laughing, you know, when you do that silly laughing, that's how I feel. It's kind of, oh, juicy. Is there one event that you can remember related to your personal development that changed your life forever?
The one event by which I measure time before and after is the profound loss and sudden loss, unexpected death of my husband, Roger, in 2008. He died suddenly on a Tuesday night after we had been putting in hay on a farm on a hill here in Pennsylvania, United States. And it was a terrible shock. And so seismic in nature that it's how I measure time. This movie came out before Roger died. This event happened after. Everything is before and after. It's a mile marker. It's a watermark. It is a moment in time, and definitely a moment of truth as far as how shall I go forward. Grief is quite murky. It's very difficult, and it's extremely personal. And so my first 4 books came out of that experience.
Wow. Wow and wow. That is amazing. And how long in that journey have you been pivoting back and forth to come to now? Could you describe that a little bit for us?
Sure, I could, yes. So if we can keep the analogy of the map, and as a sidebar, I do a talk on life mapping. So it is my go-to visual is the map. So I went off the path. I was chasing down people who I wanted to accept me, family members who pretty much, the term now is ghosted. In their grief, people don't always mean to disassociate from the widow, but they often do. So I called that my second tsunami, or my second unexpected wave of grief, was the loss of relationships of people who had been in my life as a peripheral part of my marriage, or actually an integral part of my marriage. They suddenly were no longer my core of support. I took that very hard. I took it very personally. I learned over the years that that wasn't necessarily intentional, that it's the way life rolls out. And I had to become accepting of that. I had to find pockets of forgiveness where no one was repenting, no one was saying they're sorry, but it was good for my soul to extend forgiveness, just put it out there and move on with my life. So my journey has been a series of going down unknown roads, learning that some of them hold wonderful delights and they're worth going down. Some of them have construction sites and cone zones, and I need to back up, do a U-turn, and get back on the main road. So that's what I do. And it's been a wonderful learning experience, not always a happy one, but the outcomes are good.
Oh my gosh, the words that you use, tsunami, etc. Like, I just found myself going boom in my head about how impactful that was. And that's a personal thing. And I really, really appreciate that. And what would you say then about people that might be today and thinking about personal development? They might feel like they're a little bit off their path. What could you say to them today, Kathy?
I would encourage them to find not one, not two, but several mentors. We can solve a problem in an isolated way, but how much better? There is a proverb that says it is better to seek the wise counsel of many mentors. And I think because the world is full of creatives who express themselves through counseling, through authoring books, through beautiful works of art, through just social causes, we can learn from these people, and they don't have to be an assigned or an official mentor. We can just fall under their influence and learn from these individuals. And I think that is what I would recommend when somebody wants to start on a personal journey. Be intentional, find a Mary Scott and power up and give back, yes, but also look around your sphere of influence. Not only are you sending vibes out to the people in your world and influencing them, but they're sending waves back. And let those wash over you. And they often, I've heard this little phrase, keep the meat and get rid of the bones. So take what's worth taking, and the rest, let it fall off.
Beautifully said. My goodness. Isn't that interesting? So what you mean, and what I understand you to mean with mentors, is that maybe these mentors could be hidden in some respects, because they may not have the mentor hat on, such as someone like me that's clearly out there. They may be disguised as role models, as people that inspire you deeply. And so what you're saying is our job, your job, everyone's job, is to surround themselves with mentors that we can take guidance from, that we can take positivity from, to help us to stay on our path, not anyone else's, but our path. Have I understood that correctly? That's beautiful. I love this.
You have.
And you know, the roadmap, let's go back to the roadmap, because I love that analogy. The roadmap provides so many adventures. In your, and I know recently, because I'm privy to this, you recently had a road trip. And, you know, it's funny, and this is, I digress, a couple of years ago, I went looking for one of those roadmap books because I love them. They're kind of fun. They're not the ones that fold out. It's just a big book, because that helps me get a sense, geography, I can't even get that word out, speaking so I know where I'm at. And I couldn't help but think about this when you were speaking, because there's only so much we can see. And you and I have spoken about this before, but in fact, what's going on is way bigger. So how big do you think this roadmap needs to be in order to milk it and learn?
And so many lovely, lovely analogies and symbols. Do you know a bridge builder in your life? I sure do. I know I have at least 3 ladies I can identify in my imagination who currently are bridge builders, and that very much suits a roadmap picture. And a bridge builder is somebody who says, oh, Kathy writes books. My friend Elaine needs someone to edit her work. I think I'll put them together. And so she builds a bridge between us, introduces us, and we're off and running. That is a mentor coming into my life because someone took the time to construct a bridge between us. Those people are influential. They're fabulous. They may not directly impact us, but they see somebody on our journey, on our map, who can help us make the trip more navigational, more user-friendly. And so there's a bridge. You cross over the bridge and you learn more things and you have more skills and everybody wins.
Oh, that's just fantastic. If you are listening live today, this is Mary Scott. We're on the Personal Development Hub. I am here with Kathy Joy, published author, well and truly published author of 6 books, our blogger. And I want to read this again because I'm going to ask Kathy a little bit about this. She is a collector of rare and splendid moments. So do put your comments today, right now. And if you're watching this replay, put #replay. So when Kathy's looking at it, she knows that you looked at this afterwards. If you're a friend of Kathy's and you're watching this, do applaud. Do applaud. She is one wise woman. So Kathy, tell me about that collector of rare and splendid moments. What exactly does that mean to you?
I would like to start by reading one page from my book, Winter Whispers.
Absolutely. Well, there it is. Yes, all right.
A kiss of peppermint, the peal of a bell, a tangle of lights, and a shiver of hope in the stillness. That page is a collection of rare, splendid moments. And those moments are connected to the season of the holidays and the general season of winter. And so my late husband, Roger, always encouraged me to write. And before he died, he said, you know, you should collect your celebrations. You're always celebrating something. Maybe you should put them in a book. And I never did. I was busy raising a family and working full-time as well. And he always believed in my ability to write. After he died, I began as actually a measure of survival, pure survival, to write down 3 things a day that gave me hope, gave me a reason to live till tomorrow, and that were authentic, real celebrations of the season. And those became my seasonal books. So each page contains a grouping of rare, splendid moments. I also carry around a journal. It's kind of out of reach, but my friend Claudia gifted me this beautiful little see how small it is? And it has a little lock.
Oh,
You
that's
know what's in
cute. I
here?
love it. Yes, I love it.
Inside this little delightful book, I have gratitude practice, and it is a collection of rare, splendid moments. And they're just in here in no particular order. And I have it handy so that I can jot something down when it occurs to me. It may or may not find its way into a book or a publication, but it definitely landed as an affirmation in my very needy heart.
Fantastic. So this is like a mini version of a journal that you have and you carry with you everywhere. Is that right? That's beautiful.
You want to see my large journal?
If you have it there, absolutely. I've seen it before, but look at that. Find your outside voice. What does that mean, Kathy? Lovely.
That came from something that, find your outside voice came from something that happened to me shortly after my husband passed away. And that is, a group of friends took me on a road trip for one day. They literally kidnapped me from work. They got permission from the boss for me to leave the premises for the day. They took me on a trip, and the first place we stopped was the ancient national forest. Out here is called the Allegheny National Forest, and the trees are just massive, and they go up forever, up into the air, and you just are surrounded by these gorgeous green trees. And my one friend said, okay, now we're going to do primal scream therapy. And I said, what are you talking about? And we all began to scream at the top of our lungs. And it was just what the doctor ordered. Sometimes you just have to scream.
So here you are deep in the forest having a primal scream. That is quite an image, isn't it? And so therapeutic. My goodness.
And nobody was coming around patting me on the back saying, you're going to be okay. There are other people in the world who've been widowed. Nobody came with pithy wisdom or words of comfort, which would have been fine. But the order of the day was to just be a band of sisters and scream into the forest. And I love that. It is very primal. It's very basic, and it releases a lot of emotion. And we did other things that day, but that was one of the most meaningful moments.
That is absolutely fantastic. And it takes me back now. I'll tell you my little story, if I may indulge. When I was a psychotherapist many years ago in Melbourne, Australia, I used to have available to me a padded room, so everything was padded. The walls, the ceiling, the floor, you could go in there and scream and yell and punch. And from time to time, I would take my clients there, and I found it such a release. And similar to what you're saying, it lifted up the lid on some real primal things that were important to people. What a great reminder. And how good, I think you said they were all women, you said the girls, so how wise were they to allow you, hold you in that space to have a good scream? And how did you feel afterwards? Just give us a little glimpse how you felt afterwards.
After the day or the scream?
After the scream. Thanks for the clarification. Love it.
I felt a sense of relief. I felt like it was okay to bear my emotions, that I was in a safe circle, and I felt a great sense of relief. I had been carrying around all these heavy emotions, taking care of our daughters, taking care of other people, and really not tending to my own emotions. And so they had built up. And so it was a tremendous relief. And I felt understood somehow. It was great. Yeah.
Beautiful. I just took a breath there and a little pause, because what a beautiful thing to feel understood and to be seen, to be understood and understand. Now, if you're listening today, this is Mary Scott. I hope you're here, because there is so many points that you can pick up on if any of these resonate with you. Do yourself a favor. You might actually need to watch this again, I'm thinking, because Kathy's saying so many wonderful things that you might miss them in the live session that we're having. So do put your comments, ask questions. Kathy's going to come back in later, answer your questions, and she'll be there for you. So let's go back to Kathy. Thinking about this, being heard, being seen, how important in your experience of life thus far do you think awareness is?
Awareness?
Yes.
I think it's extremely important, although in my personal experience, it's not always on the cognizant level. I feel we can be aware with our bodies, with our senses, with our memories. I think we can have an awareness somewhere in our chest. It's a knowing, maybe sometimes without words attached, but it is a presence. I believe in the power of being fully present in a moment so that you don't miss the nuances. It's a discipline to be fully present. Sometimes it's scary, and you have to have bravery and courage to be fully present, especially next to another person's pain. And there is the crux of the matter. I feel awareness is important so that we can detect pain and address it, sometimes as a silent partner, sometimes as a prayer warrior, and always as a friend.
Wow. That was so detailed. You've really got a grasp of the notion of just having awareness in all aspects. And one of the things about spatial awareness, which is something that I personally think we're lacking quite a lot. You know, how many times do we get knocked into when someone's on their phone and oops, excuse me, sorry. And spatial awareness is interesting because it's not just about the physical space, is it? It's about where am I in the big scheme of things in relationship to others? You know what I'm saying, don't you, about this? This is something known to you. How important is that to you in terms of where am I in relationship to others? What would you say about that to me?
I believe that we're all walking through the world, holding our own stories. When we're aware enough to listen to somebody else's story, and when we're super aware and able emotionally to hold their story, then something powerful happens, because then we're sharing the burden of a sad story, or we're sharing the buoyancy of a happy story, and it's a shared experience. So I think it's very important to offer an environment that invites storytelling. I would actually pause here and say, I think it's tremendously important to allow individuals to repeat themselves. In the telling of the story, there could be healing, there could be a sense of deciphering details of their story, and that's why they must repeat it. I think we get so impatient when we hear a story over and over. There's a reason for the repetition, and I think we need to bear witness to that repetition. I think it's terribly important. I've had a very recent experience with being told, you already said that. You already told me that. And it feels like a dismissal, when in fact, I was processing a very important story that's still developing. That's why stories are important, because they're so organic and they're still unfolding, and we're still pulling in details and telling the story. On the other side of that, we're hearing your story. I'm hearing your story, Mary, and I want to be present for it. I want to be aware of it. And if there's something needs repeating, there's a reason for that, and it's a very good reason.
My goodness, I have heard that so many times. And, you know, I must say that sometimes I've thought it. I've heard that before. And what I've come to know, which is some of what you're saying, is that there's different levels in our story. And I'm merely exploring the next level, the depth of the story that I'm telling, the unfolding of a deeper story within myself. Have I understood you?
Yes.
And how beautiful.
100%.
Thank you. Sorry for the delay. Sorry, everyone. How important is it that we tell our stories?
When we tell our stories, we reveal more about ourselves. And when we reveal more about ourselves, the person listening says, you, that's me too. And then there's a resonance, and then there's common ground, and you don't feel so alone.
So do you think that the story then helps build the bridge that you were talking about before?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And how many times we might have actually missed the moment because we didn't share our story, and nor did we listen to another's story.
Mm-hmm. In my children's book, Will You Hold My Story? That was a watershed moment in my life. That was a definite game changer. I had been sitting in 2013 with a therapist, and she just really had this gentle spirit. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 5 years after Roger died, I'm sitting with a therapist. I'm working some clay because she was all about having something to do with my hands, and this lovely woman. And she said to me, Kathy, you need to ask the people in your life if they would hold your story. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget her saying that, because it eventually became a children's book. And I was able to intentionally gather some dear friends and relatives that would take the time and have the courage to hold my story, which means sitting with me when I'm sad, or listening to me when I'm thinking unrealistic, crazy thoughts, just bearing witness to my story as it unfolds in a goofy manner, sometimes not linear. And so in the book for the children, it's a story about a little girl who's carrying bags on her back, and she has a satchel like you might have for school. And she's sitting on the front or the stoop of a little townhouse, and she's asking passerby, will you hold my story? It's so heavy. Will you hold my story? Each person who goes by this little girl is holding a story of their own, and it too is heavy. Sometimes they're juggling boxes, or they're carrying bags, or they're just loaded down. And isn't that another metaphor that the adults reading the book will get? Well, they'll get that nuanced feeling of, oh, no wonder they're not listening. They're carrying their own baggage. What the book invites you to do is put your burdens down, sit next to the person and hold their story, be fully present.
Oh, excuse. I just love that. My goodness. You just keep inspiring me with your wisdom, your understanding, your reflections. It's worthy of just a little pause to take in everything that you are bringing here today. And I looked at the time, and my goodness, we need to finish, and I feel like we've just begun. And I love what you're saying about, I use the term hold the space. I like to think I hold this space for you. I hold this space for my clients and my groups, and holding the story gives me another image again. And I love it. Look, there's so many things I could take from today. I'm specifically focusing on the story. Sitting next to me, and hold my story. And maybe I'm burdened with my own story, so I don't have space to hold your story. But the invitation is put yours down and sit with me and hold mine. And I think that's just such a beautiful way to end. And you have so much to bring, Kathy. And I thank you so much for giving up your time today. I know that your schedule is very full. You have a lot of commitments. You give a lot to other people. And I know that we have learned so much from you today. And I look forward to the next book. I've only glimpsed at your books, but I feel like the next one is going to be something to absolutely behold and to absorb. And do come back and see what people and comments have been said to you, asked of you, because you have brought so much here today. I feel like almost inadequately, the words are not coming, because I feel very touched that you've taken the time to share so deeply. Thank you very much for being with us today.
And I thank you. My heart is full. I have so much gratitude for being a guest on this program, and I look forward to your comments, everybody.
This week's episode has come to an end, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.